Gege, how dare you? You give me so much peak, so much lore, character work, everything, and then you ruin it all in an instant. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do it too. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Fun fact, here we are to do a breakdown and presumably penultimate review of chapter 24 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, which is known as A Ray of Hope, comma, or ... question mark. And I will say, this chapter, it follows up well off of last chapter, and it does definitely raise a question here or there for like the certain state of the future of a certain series, but regardless, we have a whole thick amount to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into this beautiful color cover page by Yuji Wasaka Sensei. And I don't know, maybe y'all are getting sick and tired of me just oozing. Sorry, I have a friend who really, like, just as a lot of people really don't like the word moist, I have a friend that despises the word ooze. They watch the reviews. So, oozing, despite me oozing copious, thick, creamy amounts of glaze all over Yuji Wasaka Sensei's art, I must once again glaze them to the moon and back, to infinity and beyond, to Samoria and Earth, because this is gorgeous. And I love the symbolism of it all too, right? Notably, you see all the different, I was about to just call them balls. I guess they are like balls. Soul balls? Ball souls? Ball souls sounds better than soul balls. So, you see, I was about to head into the artistic analysis flow state that got caught up with soul balls. But you see all the different soul balls. Ball souls. You see all the different ball souls rising up. Rising from what? Would you look at that? The planet Earth. Because they are being liberated. They are being freed. They are being put to harmony, essentially. And that is releasing them from their cages. When you think about it, cursed spirits are very much like Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. Specifically, I would say they're kind of like, I'd say leaning, funnily enough, they're like Emblem Heartless despite being pure blood Heartless. And what I mean is they are beings, they are hearts, right? I would say they're like nobodies, but like nobodies are sentient and communicable. I'd say you would argue the disaster curses are, and Mahito, are much more like nobody-esque in terms of their biology and how they work, considering they speak, they have souls, this, that, and the third, but obviously they don't care for humanity. Meanwhile, for just generic cursed spirits, I'd say they are much more like Heartless. They are bestial, they are innate, and they are naturally occurring due to what? The leakage of negativity from people, which is the same thing Heartless are born out of. But in the same way that Emblem Heartless are unnatural in the sense that they are a heart of a human being forcefully extracted from them and put into a Heartless's physical form. Same thing for cursed spirits in a way, right? Ultimately, as devious and diabolical as cursed spirits are, it's just how they are. They're literally created that way. It's the big reason why Mahito literally couldn't change. It's because that is just his nature. He's not a person. He can't evolve realistically. So being a cursed spirit is like being in a prison. Sure, you are alive in like the loosest terms imaginable, but you exist. But this is their liberation, their freedom. So they are rising up. They are escaping from the earth, from the physical form, or the pseudo-physical, pseudo-corporeal form that bound them. But notably, look at Maru, specifically falling backwards. This seems to be like a direct continuation of the end of last chapter, where he was holding the hands of his brother and his friends as they freed the cursed spirits, allowed them to reach harmony and ascend. Maru is descending. He is falling back down to earth, because Maru is a being with a physical corporeal form who now must live with the choice that he has made. Falling down into this big bad world is releasing all of these cursed spirits and giving them salvation and harmony, but ultimately it's up to Maru, the living vessel, the incarnation of harmony itself, if you will, to fall back down to earth, to integrate once again, and then truly take responsibility for the choice that he has made. Because I think there's a big point that's being brought up, that gets brought up in this chapter and was being talked about for the past couple chapters. This is Maru's choice at the end of the day. Obviously, it was a choice made after much consideration and contemplation and communication with someone who I would say is relatively unbiased, thanks to their role in the narrative. Though, you can argue this, it's definitely not, it's Yuji, right? But still, it is a choice that Maru made. Only Maru had the power to do this. Even as much as I say he is more so like a living vessel for his technique rather than an actual user of it, that does not matter. It is Maru who made the conscious choice to do this, so Maru is the one falling down. And of course, you still see him looking up towards the skies, towards the heavens, to the great grand void, that endless place of possibilities. Because even as he falls back down to the earth in corporeal form, he is the one who's going to be reaching up to the heavens in hope for connection, for reunion, for understanding between peoples, and not even just between peoples, but as we'll see later on in this very chapter, understanding within his own peoples, as Maru did commit a pretty hefty, like he did kind of slaughter their entire belief system on a whim, not on a whim, but like by himself, all for the sake of promoting cohabitation with another species that eminently they did need to do, at least seemingly. So there's like the artistic thematic analysis taking into account all that's happening here. And then in terms just for the sheer color work of it all, yeah, Yuji Wasaka Sensei is a monster. Like the detailing in these clothes, solo all the artwork I've ever done, bro. I've watched, like just it's so beautiful. And I love the green and yellow highly contrasting with the deep saturation of like almost this pinkish orange that Maru has going on. Very, very nice. He's truly being lit up by the souls of the cursed spirits as if they are soaking him in thanks. And the way he falls and the way the clothes are, it's just beautiful. It's just glaze. Right? It's just glaze. Enough glazing. Let's actually operate this chapter 24, A Ray of Hope, or ellipses, ... Except not, we're gonna, no! Get away from me. But we're up into table manners, where we see Yuka explaining Earth etiquette to Maru, specifically Maru seemingly, as she goes, hold your knife with your right hand and your fork with your left. And this means I'm still eating, while this means I'm done eating. And this means seconds, please. And we see Maru eagerly following along, doing everything Yuka says, as Tsurugi looks on like, I could interfere. She's definitely messing with him. Why bother? However, I will have a question for you guys. Is this how you guys eat too? No. Well, is this how you guys eat? Because notably, I don't. I eat with my fork in my right hand and the knife in my left. That's been a me thing since forever. I will say this for anyone who finds that blasphemous. It is not what I was taught by my family. It's just more comfortable for me. Why is it more comfortable for me? I got nothing. I got straight nothing. I got nothing. So, but regardless, it is more comfortable for me, and that's why I do it that way. So I have the fork in my right and the knife in my left. But what do you guys do? What do you guys have? Let me know. And speaking of having live reaction, about 34 minutes is over on Patreon for those $1 monthly members, $3 a month. It is the penultimate reaction for Modulo. There's gonna be one more reaction after this, and then Modulo's over, as far as I know. And I'll talk about later the possibility of us never getting any more JJK stuff. It will really depend on what the last chapter has to say, but I don't know. I feel like the way this has been set up, we're probably fried. But with it being the case, we see in Table Manners 2, Tomoe, the chef lady, who may be feeling a certain type of way about a big, beefy, brolic, discount man, if you know what I'm talking about, is met with both Maru and Yuka going, seconds please. It's very funny to see how Maru's third eye is portrayed here. Like, why is it not like that? But regardless, we see that, am I going to really stick these into my nostrils? Am I really committing to the bit? Yeah, we're committing to the bit. Hold on, let me get to that fit. It's gonna. Friends, why do you keep doing stupid? It's me. But regardless, we see them hit the seconds, please, and then Tomoe's like, no. She's holding. This means seconds. Oh, when I have kids, dog. At least they'll know their dad is always being committed to the bit. But regardless, she super commits to the bit. And we see Yuka praise, now that's a Kansai native. And we find out that they're from Kansai. Or as Tomoe says, you're from Kansai too. I don't know why I didn't think about that. In fact, hold on. Where is Yuta from? Where is Yuta from? Oh my word, my nose is now tickling from putting those in my nose. Nope, hold on. Yuta from JJK, not that Yuta. No, where's he from? Where's he from? Where is he from? I know he's not that. Where's his background? First year student, sequel, I'm not gonna look at that hard. Yeah, I'm not looking that hard. But regardless, interesting that they're from Kansai. I don't know why I thought the Gojo clan would live somewhere not in the country, but it was old fashioned, maybe. But with it being the case, that is the end of Table Manners. Actually, as we actually hop into the chapter itself. Once again, we see the many different cursed spirits being to literally atomize as they are essentially dissolved, right? And to be fair, I would feel more bad for them if I didn't view them, like I mentioned earlier, as like heartless. Or specifically, I view them, especially with the whole idea that there are actual literal souls in them. Even though I know technically the heart and the soul in Kingdom Hearts are not the same thing. They're not. They are distinct metaphysical concepts. The soul is what powers the body. The heart is what defines the body, and then the body is the body, the vessel. But I have now, because with the soul stuff, I've too hard locked on the idea that cursed spirits are basically just emblem heartless, and I don't feel bad for saying emblem heartless. Like I know Kingdom Hearts still is like, oh, you're helping the organization, but yeah, emblem heartless are like literally trap souls, like literally the hearts, the embodiments of people trapped in darkness farm. It's not even funny enough. This reminds me of the script I wrote that I need to say. I'm gonna buckle down real quick. It's been I don't care if Kingdom Hearts 4 is never coming out. I have buckled down to commit. It's already March. The anniversary's gonna pass. I'm not gonna have a single video for that third channel ready yet. But regardless, that aside, now that I view them that way, I do think this is truly a liberation and salvation. Though it is crazy to see their physical forms slowly break down. Now, I'm still gonna hold on, slight little pencil headcanon here, that their physical forms are not just being like dispersed and like thrown into the ether. I think it's being turned into positive energy. I think harmony is bringing them harmony by releasing the souls that reside in them, but very specifically allowing their physical forms to go positive and like either reinforce the environment or heal anybody who is near the cursed spirits. I say this because of what we see happen with Yuka last chapter, what we see happen with Usami, like presumably his throat got healed. We'll see Tsurugi this chapter, the gash in his shoulder has already closed, which could also just be from the natural healing factor. Time has passed, obviously. But still, you could argue it's the RCT, and even Cross, as we'll see, is perfectly fine now, despite, being double tapped. I like to imagine that all that negative energy has been turned into positive energy, turning the chaos into harmony by multiplying it against itself. That is my headcanon, because otherwise, releasing all that cursed energy all at once should just murderify everything. Right? We're not murderify, or at least it should just become a giga cursed spirit, but obviously that's not going to happen. We see all the cursed spirits get released, all the ones that were escaping, or could have escaped, immediately annihilated by Yuji and Rika, they fade into the ether. And we see Cross stand up from presumably within the ship, the Naunox, and specifically look out with his smile, hair down, looking majestic, though. Like look at this hair, bro. He looks amazing. But regardless, hair down, smiling as his third eye cries, because naturally they still are directly tied to the cursed spirits to some degree, even if not exactly, thanks to a soul color thing that we'll get into, or no, that we got into, and because of that, witnessing all this does make him cry. Though, still, you can tell it's meant to be a more positive, more, like, cathartic kind of release, rather than something painful, because it's only 2 tears, and he's not, grabbing his head in agony despite literally, who knows, if each one of these individual souls is a cursed spirit. On this page alone, this is like 40, probably 50, maybe more, I'm not counting all that, but regardless, it's a lot. And if it was, like, them literally dying painfully, being forcefully exercised, then presumably every single Rumelian witnessing this would have brain bleed and instantly die. But, with it being the case, we see, it isn't just Cross or Farming standing on the ship, bearing witness to everyone being freed, or all the curses being freed, but also Mino, which is, once again, I believe this negative energy, this cursed energy just turned into positive energy, because Mino's up. We don't see any of the other sorcerers, but Mino's up, and we know that I'm gonna do a thing. Hold on, I want to make sure. I'm pretty sure Mino collapsed, right? Am I stupid? Am I oopid? This was chapter 21? Okay, not 21. Not 21? Hold on, let me see. Am I oopid? Did Mino collapse, or am I tweaking? Mino fell to his knees. But he never like laid out collapse. So he was still standing. But I assume, considering he's standing just fine here looking up in awe, I don't think it's the adrenaline pumping. I think he was literally healed. But then again, the cut is still on his face. So maybe not. But with it being the case, all the cursed energies flowing up, all the different souls are being freed. We see Rumelian women, and like, I'll really admit, I think I kind of forgot because it was glazed over so quickly, and we don't have a single major Rumelian female character. Rumelian women kind of got the super short end of the stick for, the whole existence thing. So them being liberated from the shackles of their ancient culture by, the nature of what happened, and we'll go into that more later, is very nice. These are the same rebellion woman I think we saw from way back when they were doing a Takapa. So glad to see them all happy. Notably, you'll see that the only rebellion who's actually crying at the loss of this many cursed spirits is actually Cross. So I do wonder if that's just because he was involved in the ritual, and like because this is a peaceful release, none of the other rebellions are affected. We don't see a single other one of them cry, even though these are the only other 4 we see. And speaking of other ones we see, Jamalomo is looking on, and at least from his face alone, you can see like slight, like, oh, I didn't think this was going to occur. Meanwhile, I love when you look at his third eye, it's like, what? What? Obviously, Jamalomo is one of the few who recognize that, hey, Kalians and cursed spirits are not the same thing. We shouldn't care about that. But his third eye just instinctively is like, oh, what is happening? Which would obviously be the case if a large portion of energy were to spontaneously disappear. Or even just a large group of things. Like, imagine if you were just watching, chilling, standing somewhere, seeing, like, a pack of birds fly by, and suddenly the pack of birds just atomize in front of you. Yeah, you probably have a wide third eye reaction too. Or wide dual eye. But would it be the case? We see that this woman, I gotta look her name up. Does she have a name? It wouldn't shock me. No, it wouldn't shock me. Hold on. Grade 1. Sorcerer. Where is it? Oh, Masaki Takeda? No, not Takeda. No, not Takeda. I need it. Where is it? Hold on, Usami. Let me go. Usami, JJKM. I was initially not gonna. Oh no, not this Usami. JJKM. Where is it? Is there not a wiki page for this guy yet? Is there not a wiki page? JJK Modulo Curse Speech User. Please, if there's not a page for this, I'm never finding a page for this one. JJK Usami. Cursed Speech. Please. Inumaki's grandson, please. Curse speech. Okay, so maybe I can use the curse speech. I'm sorry, I'm going down because I was just going to say I'm not going to bother to remember this character's name, but I do want to. He literally doesn't even have a page. He does not have a page, bro. I'm never finding. But this woman, she's something like that. If you know her name, good on you. You may be like, Husband, didn't you just go open the other chapters to go look for whether or not Mina was collapsed? You're not going to look for this woman's name? No. No, that's wrong. Okay, I'm gonna look. But essentially, she says, this isn't how it usually feels when cursed spirits disappear. It's so gentle. It's like they're resting in peace instead of being exercised. And that is a beautiful comparison. Where is this woman? What is your name? Yeah, it is that. It is those same 3 rebellion women. But, hold on. I found that. What is the name of this woman? Please, what's the name of this woman? Yes, when they double cross. I know. Where's the woman at? Where's the woman? Please, I need her name. I feel bad. Not knowing the woman's name. Let me see. We do have one hope. No. Where? What is... Oh! Whew. I'm sorry, compute. I didn't mean to do that to you. I'm sorry. I'm hunting for this name. I didn't mean to drop this sort of worthiness on you. Where is it? New wave, somebody's a great sorcerer, so am I. I had to face Albert in nature. Power can be measured. She just doesn't have a name. I'm confident. Watch this character not have a name, and y'all see her yelling at me like, Pencil Man, it's not that deep. She never got one. You think Gege gave a female character that wasn't directly relevant to the narrative a name? Yes, maybe. Okay, I'm not gonna waste too much time. Hold on. Wait. This is the other chapter she debuted in. Let me see. Leads part of the video. According to the card provision. Long time ago. Scrapped. No idea. Real Hyler as bodyguard. Latent. Sumerians. Yuji Tadori. Nothing. Alright, yeah, I'm giving. I'm not gonna waste any more time. But essentially, she notes the difference between exorcism and resting in peace. And I do think this is interesting, right? It's the idea of every time you exorcise a cursed spirit, it is truly like a forceful destruction of a symptom. Meanwhile, through doing what Maru has done, he has essentially attacked the root of the problem. And obviously, it would feel a bit different, right? It's kind of like, what's a good example? It's like the difference between cutting a branch off of a tree and then the tree still being there versus literally uprooting the entire tree itself. Of course, there still is the possibility that the tree drops seeds. That may or may not come back to haunt us later, but in terms of the actual original tree that was there, it is now fully derooted. And it's like looking at a place where a tree lost a branch versus losing an entire tree. Though admittedly, losing an entire tree has always saddened me because I like trees. I don't like cleaning up after trees, but I like trees. However, we see that Yuji walks along witnessing all the curses fading and goes, well, butter my behind and call me a biscuit. He actually went and did it. Because he made up his mind. And that is admittedly the thing that I'm like, okay, maybe not. But essentially, I'm like, Yuji being the impartial third party to essentially facilitate Maru's understanding of the world and the options he had is nice. And I think the duality of Yuji Todori as a person with all the power in the world yet no power in this instant is nice, right? Where ultimately it was Maru's choice. As I talked about this earlier, the idea that it was Maru who chose to go down this path. I mean, I've killed any chances of a sequel series beyond the sequel series, but it was Maru who did that. Yuji helped him. He talked him through it. He was like, "Hey, BT Dubs, you have to get a little bit more direct and devious and dangerous, buddy, because what you're thinking of just ain't enough." So that aside, it is nice to see Yuji acknowledge that he didn't necessarily have the power in this moment, despite having all the power in the world. But with it being the case, we see that not only are cursed spirits being released, but a certain someone is being released from the shackles of their ritual, as a certain wheel clangs against the ground, and notably does immediately disintegrate. Now this is weird, I will admit. You could argue, like obviously Mahoraga didn't get destroyed because then, well, maybe, I don't know. It's weird because when we don't actually hold on. You're going to be like, pencil, you didn't look for a name, and now you're going to go look for a singular pencil. Yes. I want to know, because I'm a little itty bit bamboozled. I want to know. Akutami Kage. I want to know. Let me go back to 117, because I remember the wheel was destroyed by Gojo, but it was atomized then. It didn't seemingly crumble into shadows like it's doing here. So what I want to do, I want to go back to chapter 1, is it 118? 119? Probably 119. Yeah, I think it's 119. I think if I remember correctly, yeah, Suguna didn't atomize the wheel. In fact, he was carrying it. Then he threw it. It clanked against the ground. Okay. So yeah, the ritual's just voided. I always forget about that part. I always just remember Suguna carrying the wheel, and then him throwing it. But he throws it, he hits in the vicinity of Haruta and Megumi, and the wheel gloops into darkness. It does the same. I mean, it's a different sound effect. It's a gloop in the original manga. In fact, I'll even show y'all. It's a gloop in the original manga. Meanwhile, here in Modulo, it's not a gloop. It's a zrum. So the ritual was voided, just in a different way that it was voided when Sukuna voided it. Sukuna voided it through violence. Meanwhile, Dabura and Maru avoided it through leaving. So technically, the fight still did have a third party, but it was a third party that transcended the system of Jujutsu. Notably, as I've thought more and more about the end of Mahoraga vs. Dabura, I really do like that it is essentially both of those two characters, though Dabura, the more sentient character, both of those two characters transcending Jujutsu and cursed energy in a way by not ending the battle. Ultimately, if the battle was won or decided by whoever was truly stronger, humanity or Zamurians or blah 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 blah, it wouldn't be not just as thematically relevant, but it would be too tied into the system. And then for Modulo being a story very clearly about breaking unhealthy cultures, breaking unhealthy systems, no matter how ancient and old they are, the fact that Mahoraga doesn't get defeated or annihilated by Dabura, rather Dabura just leaves. He chooses secret third, not even the secret Joestar technique of win, die, or run, but very specifically the option of just peacefully leaving, not running away, but just saying like, hey, it's done, and going away. When he possibly could have still done it. He still could have hit like a curse technique. He could have hit like a hollow technique on some Twilight Destruction Doom kind of thing if he really felt like it. Or he could have just, canceled his techniques out. But regardless, to see Mahoraga's wheel clunk against the ground and then loop into darkness, very, very nice. And I do love seeing Yuka, who, clearly, I do think it was an actual thing that happened last chapter. I do think chapter 23 did appropriately show what was somewhat going on in their whole thingamajig, right? Like, if I had to hazard a guess, I think that the end of last chapter was literal, but I think it was like literal in the, this is gonna sound so stupid, I think it was literal in the astral sense, if that makes any sense. Like, it was literal in the way of all of Maru's friends and his brother did come help him, but very specifically, they came and helped him to like astrally, like it was their soul, like it wasn't actually their physical forms that went up there, which would explain why Yuka's in the same spot, Suri's in the same spot, Kara's all in the same spot. Like essentially, he soul ripped them. So wait a minute, what? Sorry, I'm checking something else right now. Hold on a minute. What on this good green earth? Sorry, that was something completely different. But essentially, that's what I think happened. I think it was their souls that popped up last chapter, or like their hearts or their spirits or something like that. Or it's all visual storytelling. And they themselves weren't actually, like physically pulled there, which is why Yuka's in the same spot. Yuka being out of the shadows, though, was an interesting touch. I assume that she was brought to harmony in the sense of not only was her tumor healed, but she was literally ripped out of the life or death situation she was in. Kind of like how Cross was bordering on life and death, thanks to, being double tapped. Yuka was also bordering on life and death and needed the boosty woosty to get out of that. And so she was kicked out of the shadows. The shadow that was binding her to death was destroyed in Maharaga, or at least desummoned thanks to the ritual breaking, and her brain is healed. You can even see she's genuinely shocked as she doesn't know what happened, even though she was clearly engaged in what happened in the last chapter. But as Maharaga zooms away, we see Yuka sit up like, we're Gucci? And we see she immediately reaches to the back of her head, and you'll note that her eye bags are completely gone too, right? Like remember this devious Yuka, who had like the deep eye bags and was in despair and couldn't recognize anything. Yuka's eye bags are gone, and she immediately reaches to the back of her head and is like, "Oh, I'm Gucci and geeking. It doesn't hurt anymore." And now I know some people are gonna be like, "Didn't she get out of a life and death binding vow like this?" Yes, she technically did. But she is her granddaughter's she is her grandfather's granddaughter, because Yuna did the exact same thing, except it was completely different because it wasn't ritual voided, it was something else voided. But with it being the case, she does smile, so she's like, she feels happy about it. Now, I have seen some people be like a little bit disappointed that Yuka got off basically entirely scot-free. But like, did she though? Did she though? She had, like, obviously, she got free and, like, got scot-free in the macro narrative sense of, like, oh, well, she's going to live the rest of her lifespan now, so she can't really go with the whole idea of, like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't take for each other because not everyone has everything that we want. But, like, dog, she was given a pass, like, she basically was already dead. Like, you don't even remember, at the start of the Battle with Dabur, she basically died. She was in a suspended state of death thanks to the ritual. She wasn't even cognizant of who was actually with her in her final moments before she summoned and apologized to Dabura. So I think she's earned a smile, a rest, and a call to her big brother. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Especially like when looking at it in comparison to original JJK, where you can definitely say a price was still definitely paid for the victory against Sukuna in a grand scale, because Satsu Gojo died, right? So the protagonist did pay a large price in comparison to the protagonist of Modulo, who basically didn't. Like, remember, in terms of every single power-up each major character got in the original series in comparison to Modulo, well, there aren't really actually that many major power-ups, but for one, in JJK, not only did the cast pay a net cost in Gojo, but also Yuji lost Choso, Maki lost Mai, Yuta and Akari, they got to chill. But regardless, they went, well, Hikari, he was just chilling. But Yuta went through his own things beforehand. And I think the cost of the modular characters had to pay for their perfect happy ending is mostly fine at a smaller scale, because they aren't necessarily fighting some great grander threat. They were fighting disillusionment between two peoples. So I think it's fine that you could come out fine and that the characters are doing fine and that she's able to call her big brother after nearly perishing. But we see Maru, presumably back in the corporeal world, no longer in the sacred palace, as he goes, oh, literally also crying from his eye. Once again, I'm guessing because he was directly involved in the Harmony ritual. looking down. And notably, this is the first time his third eye has actually genuinely matched his other two eyes. Or not the first time, but at least a first time I remember seeing his third eye have the same innocence and whimsy as the rest of him. It's like he's, once again, now that he's liberated himself from curse energy, from Modulo, liberated his people and from their culture in a way. He is now free to no longer live within the bonds and binds of a warrior. So now all three of his eyes actually match. Maru is truly able to be Maru in his entirety, which is a great journey for Maru, who was, I'd say, as many thematics as Modulo covers, the journey for Maru in particular was a journey of self-actualization and determining who he truly is, and that is who he is now. But we see, and then naturally, Tsurugi, straight Morgan, bro, look at that jawline. But he goes, or Maru goes, is it Yuka? And Tsurugi goes, yeah. Hey, should we go home? And Maru laughs and goes, yeah, definitely. And we see both their swords left, and like, admittedly, like, obviously there's some nice thematics here that they don't pick up their respective weapons, they pick up each other, because this is representing the bond between different people, transcending even the physical struggles and conflicts they once had. But I do hope they pick up their respective swords, and as we'll see later on, Maru didn't completely abandon or, like, completely annihilate his culture happily, like, oh great, I'm not free from my culture, let me just wipe it all. He did have conflicts and struggles here, and I do think ultimately the SSK, the split soul katana, along with Tsurugi's whole tie to it, that is his great aunt, kind of, sort of, and this being Cross's sword, I do assume they both will pick up their weapons and give respect to their histories and their cultures. As they are still part of the panel, they weren't entirely left out, but they are picking up each other. They have left the conflict behind, they have transcended the chaos to reach harmony. I'm gonna keep dropping it. I'm not gonna stop. I have one more time thinking I'm not gonna stop. But with it being the case, we cut away. Oh, we cut away to a ray of hope? Question mark? Or that's all that went. But Dabura Karaba has pulled up right back home. And he's pulled up with Spatial right to his bag, right? And notably, I think that's Mole. Is that Mole? What is this? Oh no, it looks like it could be fire. But we see that it's Good Day Chieftain, who now gives me massive Master Roshi vibes. I know the stash doesn't match at all. That's something about him screams Master Roshi. I think it's just a woman. And interesting little details here. And by little details, I mean prominent details. These are the first, before Spatial, on the literally very next page. Yeah, literally very next page. These are the first Disconte women we've seen. I'm pretty confident in making that statement. And I do want you to note the nature of their horns in comparison to both Dabura's horns and the Chieftain's horns. While the Dabura's horns and the Chieftain's horns are large and sharp and produce and curl up pointedly, you'll note that the woman's horns are dulled, or at least blunted. You'll see this one, you may be able to argue hers are slightly sharper, but based on the cut here, right, like notably this one's cut this way and it's also still cut this way, it's almost like someone took a knife to their horns to blunt them. I wonder why. And you'll see this isn't just a pattern for these two Disconte women, as also Spatial has seemingly horns that were cut. Now don't get me wrong, there are some species of animal that do have like blunt fat tip horns. I forget what type of bovine, I think it's a bovine, but like there is a certain type of, oh lord, there is a certain type of animal that does have, in fact, I want to look it up to make sure I'm not tweaking. Hold on. Animal with blunt tip horns. Horns? Animal with blunt tipped horns? Animals with blunt tipped horns include older bison bulls, which have worn heavy horns used for fighting. Other examples include, maybe I'm tweaking. Maybe it's not a thing. Maybe it's not a thing. Because they're only worn and dull because of fighting. I was thinking of a specific type of cow with large horns. And all the horns I'm seeing are sharp. But that only, and ironically enough, that actually further feeds my point. I think, now this is, once again, pure headcanon, because we're never going to get into this, but pure headcanon, I think Disconte women are forced to chop their horns short. Because you'll see a lot of other Disconte men, all with their prominent full crown bone. I almost went down a bad road there. But their crown of bone is sharp and points to the heavens. Meanwhile, all three women we see, because it's only three. We have a sample size of three. So you could say it's wrong. You may think it's just like a dimorphism case where Disconte men have sharper horns and pointed horns. Meanwhile, Disconte women do not. But just based on the chieftain and the whole nature of like culture and women in the superior culture not already being treated the best. Anyway, I do genuinely think they are forced to cut their horns. And another thing will go on to reinforce that, as we see Dabura pull up, obviously, mean mugging, third eye glaring, two eyes glaring, spatial on the back right, muscles flexing, traps looking immaculate, ears looking long, thick, and juicy, as these parties good women look on. Why does this one look familiar? Something about this art, I think the ponytails are giving me like Harley Quinn vibes, but something about this character design looks familiar. But regardless, we see the Scooter Chieftain be like, and I will admit, one thing that is interesting about this Scooter Chieftain design isn't just the black skull, which obviously are very eye-catching. Did I do there? Eye-catching? Because they're black color. But also, his third eye. It clearly is the same. Oh, another detail I do want to mention. Rumelians have, I feel like I'm not sure if I mentioned this before the previous review, or I just never noticed it, but Rumelians' third eye goes horizontally across their forehead. Meanwhile, it is now confirmed that, we're not now confirmed, we've seen the Skunte before, but I never noticed they were pointing it out. The Skunte have their third eye split down their head. And notably, it does seem natural that their third eyes are a lot more bulbous. Like, for every single, even Spezio, who has, like, one of the least pronounced third eyes, I'd say, of the Discunte we see. In comparison to the Sumerians, where the third eye, in fact, seems genuinely Jabalomus is bigger, but it seems like the third eye is relatively normal size and take up a massive portion of their forehead. Like, Dalbur's third eye literally splits his hairline open to a decent degree. The Discute Chieftain's third eye takes up all of his forehead, essentially. And even the two Discute women here, she has a massive third eye, but still, it's a large portion of their head. So it's interesting to see the differences between the Discute and the Rumelians back-to-back up close like this. And naturally, of course, all the analysis of possible metamorphism or cultural signage aside, another thing I do want to note, it doesn't seem like where are their markings? Where are their markings? We know they do have, like, the markings do appear later in life, maybe, so these are really young, unfortunately, maybe really young Discute women, but also, because Spezio has her markings, and in fact, her markings mirror Dabura. We don't see far underneath her cloak, so maybe she even has the same shoulder markings that he does. But all that being the case, into the story itself, we see the Discute women run in terror as they're like, oh my word, it's Dabura. What he's packing. And we see the Discute Chieftain go, why are you here? Guards! Guards! I'm like, buddy. You know, I don't blame him fully for being like, how on earth did you get here? Because from his perspective, Dauber just disappeared one day. And like, not just one day, like one day it was gone for a minute. Like, obviously, this good agent would probably let his guard down. Like, there's no way that guy's coming back. If he just randomly vanished, there's no way. So I understand his absolute terror. And also, it's Dabura. And we see that, naturally, this good agent is like, wait, perfect. Your bargaining chip right to me. Wait, your sister is here. Just try to lay a finger on me. Spezio will die. And we see Spezio finally get a facial design. As she pulls the hood back, she's finally liberated from the shackles of her culture in the, like, metaphorical, thematic sense, and is liberated from the actual literal curse put upon her by someone in power, in the case of, you know, the actual happenings of the narrative, as she finally shows her face. She's no longer hidden by the culture, hidden by the narrative anymore. She's finally getting to get not just the name, but a face, and also the same blunted horns, and she says, go ahead and try it. And we see, presumably, that it's good chieftain trying it, probably something to do with their third eyes. We know this is the source of their curse techniques. And we see, naturally, this good chieftain is horrified. I do love, it's rare to see this with Black Skull, where we see the veins that pop up in Black Skull actually be white. That's really, really cool. But we see him sweat as he realizes, the curse is broken? And yeah, he has no answer, no recourse. Black Rope is presumably being held by Spezio? I'm guessing. We don't see it in her hands, but we also just don't see much of her hands. But in the very same instant that this good chieftain realizes, oh, wait, I'm deep fried, triple battered. He is, in fact, deep fried and triple battered as Dauber spams his light technique. Doesn't even give him the honor of using the reversal. Spams the light technique, a bunch of X's, Xing out the Discute chieftain and tearing apart the foundations of the castle that this good chieftain was living in, absolutely annihilating literally everything around him. And one final show of force and flexing from Dabura Kalaba, the strongest of the future. And we naturally see everyone looking up, being like, huh? What was that? Hey, it's gonna fall! And this is what I mean when I talk about, like, maybe it's, like, a cultural thing that their horns are blunted, or a dimorphic thing, because we see a whole bunch of Diskunte men here, young and old, and they all have sharp pointed horns. Like, admittedly, some of them curve in, meanwhile Dabura's point out, but there's this guy right here who has the same pointed out horns. And notably, a thing that does also seem to be rare is the location of the horns spawning. Sorry, I'm going way too deep into the biology because I was actually really interested in the biological side of this stuff. But if you'll note, these two Diskunte women, she has her horns growing out of, like, here. She has her horns growing out of here. Once again, towards, like, the middle section and then forward of their head. We have the Diskunte chieftain, seemingly their horns grow out directly from the side of their head. And then we have Speijo, who even has her horns growing out from here. It's almost like a headband. Like you could see this black line here as less shading, more headband, because that's where they're essentially placed. Meanwhile, you see a lot of these Diskunte men, they have their horns also growing out, maybe like far back here, but not as far back as Dabura, who has massive horns that basically grow out of the back of his skull and then flank the entire back of his head and then curl around and point upwards as a crown. Very similar to this guy, except, further and larger. And naturally, as everyone freaks out over the destruction of the castle, we see no one actually gets harmed, as a child goes, wait a minute, that Oyuloka, Captain Dabura? And we see Captain Dabura immediately, someone at the dun 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 dun. And I would say, who's Dabura feeling? He's feeling like him. Who else? Why he's feeling like him? Of course, because he's literally him. And Captain Dabura flash steps, literally, if it wouldn't break everything, flash steps in between everyone, and essentially lets everyone know a little something. As they all turn, seeing him, we see the many different Diskunte individuals watch as the chieftain's his head is thrown and rolling to show the absolute liberation that Dabura has given them. And the reason I was so focused on this idea of blunted horns being like a thing of note, and maybe a way to disrespect Diskunte women, is note how the chieftain is decapitated. He isn't just the dome and his horns are kept intact. It looks like Dabura explicitly went out of his way to dishonor the chieftain by slashing his horns off. And notably, at least from how this is drawn here, he didn't slash them off at even angles, right? Like, typically, we know Dabura's his rays travel out like this, or even like this. He clearly didn't do that to the chieftain's head because it's a clean cutter on his neck. But I think he literally did chop off the horns of the Diskunte, like one this way, one that way, one that way, in order to disrespect him further. And maybe even give a little bit of lick back for all the Diskunte women, as it looks like I mentioned, Spatial's horns are blunted, and they may have something to do with the curse. But he cuts off the horns, and that does seem to be a massive sign of disrespect. Essentially, think of it like someone took your teeth out. Like, obviously, we used to flex our teeth, presumably when we were more wild, but like, imagine if someone just reached into your mouth and ripped out your incisors and then decapitated you. It'd be extra demoralizing, but Dabura does throw the head and is like, look into my eyes. I am the captain now. Or no, yes. We see Speijo specifically protecting the two women that were presumably doing what they had to do with the chief. It was the chief. Speijo pulling up aura farming, just like her big bro. And as Dabura says, starting now, I am chief of the Diskunte. Understood? And this is nice to see. Dabura truly embracing who he is. Obviously, he embraced who he was by force before. Like, he slaughtered Dura because he was told to slaughter Dura because the chieftain had his sister's life hanging in the balance. And Dabura wasn't willing to break free of that because, unlike previous of the strongest archetype, he doesn't, or not even previous, like, really, like, Sukuna and Kashima, I'd say. Even Ryu doesn't really fit. And even Toji, I'd say, don't really fit. But would that be the case? Dabura was unwilling to sacrifice his sister just for the sake of power in terms of, like, the political sense. But now that he's allowed to do that, now that he's evolved as a warrior, now that he's evolved his understanding, and of course now that his sister is free from that curse, he has finally started exercising his power. In the same way that Ryoben Sukuna forged the world around him into a world that he saw fit, based on using the power that he had, he literally, by, presumably I'd say, maybe in like the middle portion of his life, you don't know how long Sukuna's life was, but essentially by the time of the Yorozu encounter, that man was being prayed to. Like a deity. They're praying to that man for good harvest, and he was just a guy. Because the world was literally forged around him by the nature of his power, his very existence. We see the same thing with Satoru Gojo, where Gojo literally built the modern era into what it was. Both of our main characters were only allowed to live and exist because of Satoru Gojo and the power and influence he had. And now to see Dabura, the strongest of the future, fully embody that mentality, that modem of I am the strongest, you shall obey, for I am the strongest. It's nice to see. He is allowed to be the greatest, and he's fully embracing that. And we see everyone, after seeing that, oh, Chief dead? And Big Rob back? Yeah, let's not. Oh, wait, speaking of, before I get into everyone bowing to our juicy, legendary, throbbing King Dabura, the one thing I do want to note, Dabura does seem to be unique from Speijo in the sense that he has, like, extra eye slits. Like the markings that surround Dabura's head, these two white ones right here are not just, like, off-color markings like I initially thought they were. Nope. That's, like, extra slits around his eyes. Like, imagine if around your eyes, instead of you just having, like, the one open eyelid, like, someone were to, or you even were to cut here, and then, oh, it's so hard to pull the lower eyelid, but cut down here. That's essentially what Dabura has around his third eye. But Speijo does not have that. It seems like that was the thing that is unique to Dabura, as she has all the original black markings. But that aside, everyone just immediately bows to Dabura, as they should, because obviously they ain't fighting that. And the thing I do want to know about Dabura is that he's not entirely alone about having the full back head horn designs. Obviously his are thicker than this guy's, but this guy does seem to have it. Though you can see it's actually very rare for the Sunsei men, at least in this crowd. It's only Dabura and this guy who have the massive horns growing out the back of their skull, which curl around and point forward. This is, in fact, I feel like this is literally either the exact same as Dabura's design, because like the way this like 3D dimensionals draw, or like slightly smaller, just so Dabura can be on top. And seeing everyone bow to him is really, really cool as he stands there, aura forming. But we see that Dabura says, first, we'll make a proper grave for Dura and enshrine him as a hero. And that's sweet. That's sweet. Because when we think about it, if not for Dura, well, to be fair, you know, it's a story. But if not for Dura, the cycle of curses would have never been broken, right? Cursed spirits would never been able to find harmony. Maru and Cross would not exist as they are. Dabura wouldn't have been on Earth to even battle Maru. The story as we know it exists solely because of Dura. He is unironically, one of the most influential characters in all of JJK, the trilogy, because of how much impact he had on such major characters like Dabura, like Maru, like Cross, even like Jabaloma. So, heck, he was the whole reason they were able to escape the planet in the first place, because he was able to mine that super refined mole. So, all that being said, let me take a sip real quick. Sorry, stay hydrated, folks. But, with it being the case, Dabura giving him his due respect is great. As ultimately, while Dabura is undeniably the strongest of the future, right? I know people are going to say, Yuji's like the strongest of like a transitionary era, bro. He I wasn't keep calling Dabura the strongest of the future, dog. Don't do this to me, Yuji fan. But with it being the case, Dabura being the strongest of the future, seeing him exercise it, and very specifically, seeing him exercise it in a way different from Satoru Gojo and Ryoma Tsukune, two of the previous strongest archetypes, is great too. Notably, for good reason, admittedly, because Geto was the nicest of guys. But Gojo never necessarily honored Geto. He was going to honor him by annihilating his body when he thought he was going to be able to get a lick back on Hijaku, but that's the closest he got to honoring him. Meanwhile, like, presumably, I'm not sure how the implications meant to be read. Either that Gojo left Geto's body in that alleyway and that's how Hijaku found it, or like, he like buried it. I'm assuming the implication there is that he buried it properly and didn't destroy Geto's body. So technically he did honor Geto with a burial, but he didn't honor him fully with a shrine. You know, he wasn't really a hero. Meanwhile, Sukune didn't honor anybody but himself, because he was Sukune. But Dabura explicitly goes out of the way to honor someone infinitely weaker than him, solely because he respected him as an individual and as a friend, which is very sweet to see. But, of course, this isn't all, as Dabura says, after that, after that, ellipses, ellipses. Once we're done with that, I'll quit being chief and just do whatever. Huh? I don't know much about politics. What? and like, admittedly, Dabura doesn't even even I guess it's weird. I wouldn't say I don't know anything, but I'm not too. I'm informed enough that in case the wrong thing were to happen, I'd be prepared. And I always do stay up to date because all things are happening in the world today. Things have not stopped happening in the world since ever. So I always try to stay aware and up to date and stuff like that. But I would never ever want any positional like power in any sort of formal place. It's just not. It's not for me. It's not for me. Even if I had like the absolute authority that a Dabura or a Gojo or a Sukuna would, like it just wasn't. It wouldn't be for me, dog. Well, maybe if I had their level of authority, that'd be different, right? Because who's stopping them? Who's stopping them? Who's stopping Satoru Gojo? Who's stopping Ryoba Sukuna? Who's stopping Taburo Karuba? In that case, then it'd just be like, we're helping everyone. You cannot say no to this. But in a general sense, I understand Dabura's like, man, I don't really want to do this. That's not my life. And it's nice to see that Dabura, as much as he's evolved and grown and changed and understood himself more as a character, as a warrior, as a being within his world, it's nice to see that he's still Dabura, right? It's not his thing. It never was his thing. And it's great to see that while the elder Diskute are like, dog, why are you going to leave this us? The younger Diskute, who don't even have their markings yet, are happily laughing and smiling as they're like, yeah, he's really like that for real, twin. And speaking of twins, we see that the Naonox has landed. It has fully made contact with Earth, which was presumably within the rubble of Shinjuku, or Tokyo in general, and we see Osaki, of all characters, sitting there as Maru and Cross explain what happens. As Maru goes, cursed spirits contain the souls. English, cursed spirits contain souls the same color as Kalion's. And what we heard was the voices of those same colored souls. We used our curse technique to scatter their colors. So from now on, we Remelians won't confuse cursed spirits with Kalion's anymore. Which is a very nice thing to do, right? It is interesting that the soul overlapping was enough. Like, it is very simply, it's interesting that they say, we heard was the voices of those same colored souls. Which, once again, it does sort of more feed into my Heartless interpretation, where, like, they don't say the cursed spirits themselves are talking, it's the souls contained within the cursed spirits. But, like, us is meant to imply that all cursed spirits are, like, reincarnated humans, or, like, have, like, I don't know, that'd be a weird something to go down. But still, with that being the case, they were liberated from that confusion, very simply the biological burden that came with recognizing recognizing cursed spirits as Kalion's, as Osaki nearly gave himself brain damage by consistently listening to their cries. But we see that both Maru and Cross stand before the entirety of their council, essentially, and explain, but there's one problem. We couldn't scatter the colors of cursed spirits, Kalion's, and Remelians separately. So, any Remelians or Kalion's who are born in the future will have different colored souls. Kalion's may not recognize the Remelians of the next generation as their own kind. It's possible that they will try to eat them. And that is a very interesting byproduct, right? Ultimately, while cursed spirits and Kalion's are in fact distinct by the nature of one having an actual proper physical corporeal form, and cursed spirits not having a full proper physical corporeal form, it is interesting that they are truly so close. Truly on some strong convergent evolution type beat, where they could not entirely isolate the two. And or the Remelians. So now they're put in this awkward scenario. Though obviously, quite clearly this awkward scenario could have been avoided if they just final flat or no, big bang attack. But we see that naturally some of the older Remelians are like, what? And we see Cross explain specifically, there haven't been any confirmed reports of Kalion's breeding in the last century. So I'd like to hear your opinions on what we should do with the remaining 52 Kalion's aboard this ship. 52 means something. It has something to do with genetics. I know it has something to do with genetics, but 52, there being 52 Kalion's in specific, is very neat, and that is cool. That means that the big, massive worship Kalion isn't the only one that's here on the Naonox. It is 51 other ones as well. But, obviously, whether or not they'll be able to roam free or anything like that, that is yet to be seen. But, naturally, we see the older Remelians be like, what in the world have you done? Cross, Modulo, you should be interrogated about your crimes before we discuss... You should be interrogated about your crimes before we discuss what to do with the Kalion's. And, admittedly, I don't entirely... Like, obviously, I end up more aligning with Maru than Cross. Mainly Maru, because Maru made the choice. But, as much as I do end up aligning with Maru, I do get why the older generation, especially, is super concerned about the nature of the choice that Maru made. Because Maru didn't, like, he talked to Yuji. He didn't really talk to Cross. He talked to Yuji. A Yuji who, like, heard about Kalion's from Toto and interacted with one that same day. The Remelians have been living this culture. They're literally named by Kalion's. They are determined. Well, before the whole wipe out all Korsoji thing, or like wipe out future sorcerers thing, they were given their role in life or the absence of one by Kallions. It's not no little tiny piece of their culture. It's not like. It's not. Well, to be fair, I feel like taking any like piece of culture away is bad, but or not bad, but like it's complicated. But to say, so like it's not like you're taking away like a specific dish. Maybe even then, taking away certain specific dish of their culture is really rough. But it is like a core foundation to their entire belief system as a people. And Maru said, he did. He just essentially hard banished it. He's like, yeah, whatever. We're not doing that no more. And obviously, it's not like he did that flippantly. We'll see very much so in the chapter he didn't do that. But I get why, for people who have spent their entire lives worshiping these creatures, finding out that their offspring, their descendants, and even possibly they themselves, if there were future Kallions born in this, even though they haven't bred in 100 years, if there were future Kallions born, that they themselves, they would be at risk, all because of a choice that Maru made. The world was already working, quote unquote, in a proper way. So why would he go on and change the HPC by himself before consulting anybody? So I get why they accuse Maru of crimes and are like, how dare you do this? However, a certain someone steps up to Maru and crosses the fence. And it's Jabaloma. As Jabaloma says, we're going to be living on Earth from now on, so we should accept this as a necessary change. And I do like that. Jabaloma has already lost a lot, so he's like, dude, it's not. It's genuinely, unfortunately, it's literally not that deep, dog. Let's just keep it pushing. We're gonna be here from now on. Let's try to accommodate the best we can. And naturally, we see another one of the older individuals being like, or no, the same older individual that was working with the old guy, going, Jabaloma, you fiend! And we see that the other person, unexpectedly, speaks up for Cross and Maru, as he goes, shut up, both of you. Have you been hydrated today? What? Hydrated? And we see Osuki of all characters say, there's a lot I want to say too, but just shut up for now. I decide about the Kallions first. And that is very, very nice. Osuki, he has been a man of one-track mind in many ways. And one of those core tracks of Osuki's one-track mind is the idea of the Kallions. So doing it for the Kallions, being of the Kallions, and respecting the Kallions, because the Kallions are the Kelly goats in this and the third. So it is great to see him in this moment. Still, it's obviously development, but in the same way that Dura has developed, yet has stayed the same fundamentally, Osuki's developed and stayed the same fundamentally. Before, Osuki would have been on their same train. In fact, we know he was partnered with this old man before, in terms of, oh, I hate this, that, and the third, this, that, and the third. But no, he's grown a genuine respect for Earth, a genuine respect for Maru, a genuine respect for Cross. And he's like, no, it's fine. We need to focus on what we have left now, and not focus on prosecuting who has brought us here, because ultimately they have saved us from a grisly fate. Seeing Osuki recognize that is really, really nice. And also, I didn't glaze him enough. Osuki's mad handsome, dog. I want the Osuki build. I want the Osuki jawline. I want the Osuki third eye. Okay, maybe not the third eye. Well, I don't have a fat behind forehead. I'd rather have Osuki third eye than the Dura third eye. My hairline's jacked up enough as it is. Can you imagine if there's a third eye split my hairline even further? But, with it being the case, we see Maru explain, honestly, I wasn't sure what to do. I wondered if maybe I should take the Kallions' lives along with the cursed spirits. Which does sound crazy, but let me continue. And we even see Osuki not leap out of his chair at the thought of that. He's still sitting there with his jacket on, like, man, Osuki, man, he built like that. But we see, if they're going to eat our children, then we can't maintain our current relationship with the remaining Kallions. So, even if we eventually have to treat them like livestock, then I thought I might as well, liberate them too. And that is the rough thing, right? Like, imagine, like, obviously, we don't really worship dogs. Maybe there's some cultures that do, but I don't know any culture that still worships dogs. But imagine if one day you found out your dog's children would possibly just attack you, right? Like just not even like they would. Not in the same way that, baby attack you. Like, no, they're gonna grow up fully born, and there's a possibility that they can just maim you and your children at any moment. Well, specifically, maybe mostly their children, but still, like, that's the thing that could happen. You may want to put them down or get your dog spayed or something like that, because you couldn't imagine that. Now, obviously, scaled up to the fact that that the Kallions are the core foundation of rebellion, religion, and culture. It's that level of it, and I get why Maru was like, I like he thought about it. He was like, maybe I should liberate us from them, because ultimately they are but beasts. But in a grand ode, a true respect to his own culture and everything he's done, and everything the Kallians have done for them. Remember, Maru's name presumably comes from that great Kallian. Same with Cross's name. Same with their even nature as warriors, even if there are unhealthy aspects of rebellion culture. It's still part of their culture. It's part of who they are. Literally. Their name is a part of their culture. And their existence is part of their culture. It is nice to see that Maru gave them that respect and was like, I could make this choice. I won't do it just yet, though. I need to get other people's views. As he says, but I couldn't do it. Should we treat the Kallians like wild animals who will attack us from now on? Get rid of them? Or not? I need your opinions. And that is nice. I do like that at least he brought that to them. Because obviously there are only 52 Kallians left. And even if there haven't been reports of breeding in 100 years, still, doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Bees can be laid by at any time. So I'm glad that Maru was willing to reach this. What decision they'll come to? I don't know, though. I'm assuming they're probably going to keep their current Kallians, maybe get them spayed. Maybe, because we already know certain Kallians are just immortal. Like, a lot of the people here in 500 years' time won't even be around anymore. Meanwhile, that same Kallian would presumably still be there. So, it is a complicated thing. But speaking of complicated things... the Chewy one. The first one was just agony. There we go. I think that's Chewy. But Yuji Todori walking in the Gojo Clan store. Like, I saw it. Like, what was it? Was it really just a get better? But yeah, look at whatever. But look, oh, look at this. Oh, look at him. Oh, man is back. Oh, yay. Oh, my toes. You're so curled. Whatever. Yuji's walking to the storehouse, and then we see someone who should have been long dead, long inactive. Go, hey, it's been a while, Itadori. And Panda's mad with Itadori. Itadori black flash him, erase him, Itadori, erase him. But this is what I talked about all the way back in the intro. The intro was forever ago, so I don't believe you forgot. Man, this chapter was so good, dog. So good. Gave me so much world building, so many character design, so much lore, complicated talks about unhealthy cultures and parts of culture that you cannot release, the complications of moving past your cultures. It gave me so much good stuff. This would be a 10 out of 10 top tier worthy chapter. It gave me a Dabra. It gave me everything. But unfortunately, I can't give this chapter nothing because it had to ruin it with this filthy, nasty, disgusting, horrific. Yeah, this chapter's not worthy. Dude, okay, fine. I will not let that filthy, nasty, disgusting, horrific, ugly excuse for a creature win. I won't. The rest of the chapter is peak 10, thank goodness. I went in deep with it already throughout the review, if you couldn't tell. But to give a quick recap on why I think the chapter is basically perfect. It's better that. I do like everything from the beginning to the end. First things first, the color cover page where I talked about the thematics of all that. I like this. It's cute. And then the release of the cursed spirits, the acknowledgement of the soul versus the physical form, how it relates to the Kingdom Hearts, which tickles my heart. I really like that, so that's cool for me. Cross waking up, hair down, just a cool design, and also a great thing to see. Him finally being freed, and the harmony being met between humanity, cursed spirits, and Samurians being met with his arising as a person who was cut down by the conflict, by the chaos of humanity. Very, very nice. Seeing all the different reactions of certain characters to it, from Mino, the curtain, or whatever he's called. A window? I think a window. But Mino reacting to the three Romalian women, reacting to Jabalona, reacting. Nice to see this random woman whose name I do not remember if she ever got a name. Seeing her react and compare the exorcism to the release is nice. Seeing Yuji give praise in a way by being impressed by Maru actually being willing to go through with it is nice. Seeing Yuka laid out and be like freed from it, and specifically the ritual ending as the way it did was very, very nice and culminating to the character. She made the sacrifice and she was rewarded for it, just like her grandfather. And then seeing Maru and Tsurugi reconnect in this nice way is beautiful. Seeing Dabura get his lick back, Spatial get a face reveal, and cool character mode, and saving the Skunte women. Seeing Dabura still stay true to his character even as he's evolved as a character is nice. And the discussions of culture and the complications of it, letting parts of it go and letting it continue. It's just a fantastic chapter. It's just a fantastic penultimate chapter. I'm interested to see what chapter 25 has to offer. I believe that is the last chapter of Modulo. So now certain something's gonna have to just join the new weekly lineup, you know? Modulo's done. So I'm gonna have to find a certain something to fill it sooner now. But regardless, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave opinions we need. Opinions we need in the comment section down below. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that lethal notification so you don't miss out on any videos taken from the channel. Also to have a page down below where you support me for as long as one month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as long as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the 34-minute live reaction to this very chapter, along with all previous live reactions to JJK Modulo, and then the last final reaction to JJK Modulo in the I didn't talk about all the whole like thing behind it. Whatever, I'll talk about that more next chapter. But essentially, I got sidetracked. In the live reaction, you can check that out. Not only the live reaction, but you get early access to all my videos, early ad free access to all my videos, not just for this channel, but also the second channel, that called the reaction, link in the description down below, and also in the card in the upper, what do I always do? Why do I always do it? What do I always? Okay, this way. Am I stupid? This way? in the upper right hand, it'll be linked up there. And I do reaction videos over there every Saturday at 1 p.m. ES Tizzle. Feel free to roll through over there and also get early access as patrons and members. And you also get your name listed at the end of every single video. If you're a $3 member or $3 patron or higher, you get your name listed and read aloud at the end of every single video. On top of that, I do have a link to my my Twitch in the description down below. That guy with the controller. I stream every Friday at 8 p.m. ES Tizzle. Roll through. We have a wonderful time. We yap. We game. We have a good old time. And then I have my Ko-Fi down below. If you want to drop 5 views for a short video, 20 views long video, or any views at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. Alright, lady, thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Redwolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Bura Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Dino, Tim Thomas, Kaving, OrXN, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, DNA, Edwin Ingbi Straw, Antavius Mitchell, Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Jagoda, Plant Crone, Striker Man, Brendan Payne, Black Sage, Multi-Batman Superman, Zalims, Joe B, Sleepin' John, The Young Family, Pastel Pandora, Karina Hernandez, Mostly King DKG, Andrew Bonet, John Malcolm, Akalade Babatunde, ASD1234, Jesse Clapp, CCC, Ramondo Furin, Sky XT, Victor Jacobs, Axis XC, Osin Tibwit BDM, Kingly, at JDog2656, Union Eye, Marisol Boyd, Funny Dude, FNZ Shear, Magic, Sino King, and Sheesh King. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Dread Zoen, Karina Hernandez, Kevin Encarnacion, Lil Kodo, and Sean. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier member, Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members, J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Walking Minows, and Ernesto 430.